We're going to be working with polynomials. Some definitions. A monomial has only one term. So here are some examples of what a monomial would look like. 5x, 7m to the ninth, or it could be just a constant like a -8. A monomial is one singular term. A polynomial or polynomials is one or more monomials added or subtracted. Polynomials have many monomials. A special kind of polynomial is called a binomial, and a binomial has exactly two terms. So you see here we could have 3x squared minus 6, or it could be in parentheses like this where you have 11y plus 8. So a binomial has two terms. Another special type of polynomial is called a trinomial, and a trinomial has exactly three terms. You could see a trinomial in parentheses with this y squared plus 11y plus 6, or separately like 8p to the third minus 7p plus 2m. So these are trinomials because there's exactly three terms. When we're talking about polynomials and standard form, we are ordering the terms by exponents, highest to the lowest from left to right. So standard form takes a polynomial and organizes it so that the highest exponent comes first, then it goes down each exponent. See here a polynomial that is in standard form. We have 7x to the third plus 5x squared minus 4x plus 3. So it goes from the highest exponent down to the constant. Pause and try. Here you want to rearrange from the highest exponent to the constant. So you see that you have 6x to the fifth plus 5x to the third plus x minus 3. Rearranging a polynomial into standard form. So we're going to work with addition of polynomials. And when you have addition of polynomials, sometimes you will see polynomials with parentheses around them. So when you see a polynomial and you have parentheses around them, and in between the two parentheses you see a plus sign, we have addition of polynomials. To add polynomials, you're simply going to remove the parentheses and then you're going to combine like terms. I want to review what like terms are here. Like terms have the same variable with the same exponent. When you have the variables with the same exponent, you can combine by adding or subtracting their coefficients. And the coefficient is the number in front of the variable. Here I can combine the x squares. I have 1x squared and I have a plus 3x squared. So to combine, I'm going to take 1 plus 3 and I'm going to have 4, and I'm going to attach that like variable and exponent. And I'm going to combine the x's here. I have plus 6x plus 10x. I'm going to end up with plus 16x. Keep in mind, I can't combine 4x squared with 16x because they're not the same variable and exponent. They're the same variable, but they don't have the same exponent. So they're not able to be combined. And then lastly, I'm going to combine those constants, and the constant is plus 22 minus 16, and I'm going to end up with plus 6. Now keep in mind, if it's asking you to write it in standard form, you want to make sure that you have the highest exponent down to the constant when you write your answer. Pause and try. You see here, you end up with 4x to the third minus 2x to the third is going to give you 2x to the third. And then you have the 3x squared, and you have nothing to combine it with, so it's just going to come down. And then you see that you have an x and there's nothing to combine it with, so it's just going to come down. And then you want to combine the constants. Plus 1 minus 2 will give you a -1 or a -1 here. With subtraction works a little different because what you're going to see is a minus sign on the outside of parentheses. So these two polynomials are separated by a minus sign. Well, what that means is I have to distribute that negative or that -1 that is really there to that second parentheses before I can actually combine. If you don't distribute that negative first, you won't have subtraction of polynomials. So the first polynomial can just come out of the parentheses, but the second, I'm going to have to distribute that negative. So it's going to change the signs of everything inside that second parentheses. I'm going to end up with a -7x squared minus 22x plus 17. Now that you distribute the negative, you can combine those like terms to get it in simplest form. You can combine that 12x squared minus the 7x squared, and you're going to end up with 5x squared. And now you're going to see that minus 16x minus 22x, same sign, add and keep the sign, you're going to end up with a -38x. And then lastly, you're going to see that constant plus 9 plus 17, you're going to add that together and you're going to get plus 26. And you want to make sure that your answer is in standard form, and it is in standard form because it's going from the highest exponent down to the constant. Pause and try. Remember here, you're going to have to distribute that negative to that second parentheses. So it's going to be the opposite sign for everything. And then you want to combine like terms. 3x squared minus 8x squared is going to give you a -5x squared. Plus 4x minus 15x is going to give you a -11x. And then a -18 minus 12 is going to give you a -30. The next operation we're going to deal with is multiplication of polynomials by a monomial. So it's a polynomial by one term. You're going to be using the distributive property here, and you're also going to be using that product rule for exponents. And remember, the product rule for exponents, when you're multiplying like bases, then you can add their exponents. So you see here, I have a monomial on the outside of a parentheses with the polynomial inside. And I need to simplify by doing the multiplication here. So I'm going to take that monomial and I'm going to distribute it to everything inside the parentheses. So I'm going to end up having 2x times 3x squared. So keep in mind that when you're doing this multiplication, you're going to end up having numbers being multiplied together and like bases being multiplied together. And when you have like bases being multiplied together, you're going to add their exponents. So in this case, we're going to end up with 6x to the third. You're going to take it and you're going to multiply it to the next term. So you end up having 2x times 2x. So keep in mind, you multiply the numbers together and then you have x times x. And they really have a power of 1. So when you add those exponents, you're going to end up with x squared. So you get 4x squared here. And then lastly, you multiply the 2x to that -1, and you're going to end up with minus 2x. So to simplify here, you needed to multiply the monomial to everything inside the parentheses. Now, I always gray out the multiplication part because really you want to get to the point where you can do that gray part in your head and come up with the answer directly. So if I were to do this, I would do 2x times 3x squared is going to give me 6x to the third, and so on. Pause and try. Here you should have gotten 20x to the third plus 4x squared Don't forget you have x times x, and that's going to give you an x squared. And then lastly, you're going to get 24x.